All right, let's get right into it. When you first look at the text we're covering today, it seems like one of those parts of history you kind of just skim through, right? A long, super dense list of names and genealogies. But what if it's not just a list? What if it's actually a blueprint? The story of a civilization's entire reboot, a nation literally rising from the ashes, all hidden in the details of who showed up to rebuild. So, the story starts at absolute rock bottom. A nation had been completely shattered, its capital city was in ruins, and its people exiled. Now, this isn't just some historical note. This is the catastrophe that sets the stage for everything that comes next. The community, for all intents and purposes, was gone. And that is what this is all about. We're going to bridge that gap from total ruin to restoration. We're not focusing on the fall, but on the incredible, organized, and totally intentional effort to come back. We're going to decode this list of names to see exactly how you rebuild a society from scratch. So, we've got 5 stops on our journey. We'll kick things off with the master plan. Then, we'll meet the first families who laid the groundwork. From there, we're going to step inside the temple, the very heart of the community, meet its guardians, and finally, see how they reconnected to their royal past. Okay, so here's the thing you've got to understand. These genealogies are not just some sentimental record of ancestors. No way. Think of them as an organizational chart. They answer the most critical questions for anyone trying to restart a nation. Who's here? What's your job? And where do you fit in the grand plan? So, how does this blueprint actually start to take shape? Well, first things first, you need people. The very first wave of people who came back formed the demographic core of the New Jerusalem. These were the pioneers, the families who laid the physical and the social foundation of the entire city. And this is where the details get really fascinating. As you can see, the record doesn't just say, a bunch of people came back. It gives us hard numbers. 690 men from the tribe of Judah, and an even bigger group, 956 from Benjamin. Now remember, these are all listed as heads of their families, so the actual number of people was way, way bigger. This was the foundation, everything else was going to be built. Okay, so you have a population. What's next? Well, the absolute top priority was restarting the city's heart, the temple. And this wasn't just a place to worship. It was the spiritual, the administrative, and the cultural center of their entire world. And let me tell you, running it was a massive operation. Get a load of this number, 1760. That's how many priests were on staff, and they're described as able men responsible for ministering in the house of God. Just think about that for a second. That's the size of a modern corporation, all dedicated to making this one central institution run. It just shows you how vital it was to their whole identity. But the priests, they didn't work alone. They were supported by the Levites. So if the priests were kind of like the senior executives, the C-suite, then the Levites were the entire specialized workforce that made the whole organization tick. They handled all the complex logistics of the temple. And their jobs were incredibly specific. I mean, we're talking about meticulous inventory control, counting every single service article. We're talking about managing priceless furnishings, handling all the essential supplies, the flour, the wine, the oil. You even had specialists like chemists mixing sacred spices and bakers who are responsible for not just the offering bread, but also for preparing special bread for every single Sabbath. This was a highly organized, very complex operation. And check this out, because it tells you everything about their priorities. The musicians, the ones who led the worship, they had a special status. Their work was so essential that they were totally exempt from all other duties. And why? Because their job was 24/7. Continuous worship was a core function of the New Jerusalem. Now, any functioning city needs security, of course. But the gatekeepers here were so much more than just guards. These guys were officials in a position of immense trust. They were responsible for the security, the access, and the integrity of the most sacred parts of the city. 212 men were chosen for this role, and they weren't just random hires. The text is very clear that they were registered by their genealogy in their own villages and assigned to these positions of trust. Basically, your family line was your resume. It was proof that you could be trusted with this responsibility. And their duties followed this really precise daily rhythm. They stood watch all night long. They were responsible for the temple's storage rooms and all its treasuries. Crucially, they held the key. It was their job and their job alone to open up the gates every single morning. They literally held the keys to the kingdom. So the city is up and running. It's got its people, a functioning spiritual center, a top-notch security detail. But, a community is more than just jobs and functions. It needs an identity. So how did they connect this brand new beginning to their grand historical past? Well, that brings us to the final genealogy in this whole chapter. And its purpose is crystal clear: to forge an unbroken link between the people who came back from exile and their royal heritage, specifically through the line of Israel's very first king, Saul. This list traces the lineage directly from King Saul's family, right down through the generations. And this wasn't just for some historical record. No, it was a powerful statement. It told everyone, hey, we are not a new people starting from scratch. We are the continuation of the kingdom. Our history is intact. So when you put it all together, this chapter that looks like a dry list of names is actually a powerful declaration. It lays out a strategic plan for a new society. It assigns everyone a role. It establishes order. And it grounds the entire project in a deep and royal history. It defined who they were, and it gave them the blueprint for who they were going to become. It really makes you think, doesn't it? A simple list of names can be a history of the past, a blueprint for the present, and a promise for the future. So, what would a list of the key people and roles in our own communities say about our priorities, our identity, and where we're headed?